So what's going on, guys? It's Jamie, it's speedboxing. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel before you click onto any of these videos. Also comment below in the comment section if you guys have any opinions on what I'm saying in any of these videos. Like always, it is appreciated if you guys could drop me a quick sub or two on my channel. So I just watched the full gloves are off for David Haye and Tony Bellew for their rematch on May the 5th. It's in a couple of weeks time, or just under a couple of weeks time now. And this has been a rematch that people have been talking about for a while, you know what I mean? It's a fight that has been stop-start because obviously David Haye pulled out of the fight last November when it was meant to happen in December because of a bicep injury a few weeks before the fight was meant to happen. So that stalled the fight for another 5 months. So now that we get to see this rematch on May the 5th, it's going to be an interesting fight in my opinion. And David Haye obviously is taking a different approach in this fight in terms of the mind games. He's there giving Tony Bellew credit and saying Tony Bellew was the better man and that Tony Bellew was the better man on the night and that he was coming in with the wrong mentality. Like David Haye's coming in with like a humble kind of attitude, but is this legit from David Haye? A lot of people are not buying it because David Haye is not a very humble character. He's never really been a humble character in the past, David Haye. You know what I mean? But obviously he's just trying to keep his mind on the fight, in my opinion. And he's trying not to let Tony Bellew see him bite, you know what I mean? Because he wants to go in there and get this victory against Tony Bellew. Because if he loses to Tony Bellew on May the 5th, his career's over. Like, we know that anyway. David Haye's career's over if he loses to Tony Bellew. But even if he beats Tony Bellew, like, where does David Haye even go? Because is he going to beat one of the big boys? Is he going to beat an Anthony Joshua? Is he going to beat a Deontay Wilder? Not in my opinion. Like David Haye, he's always had that punching power and he's always been athletically gifted. But at 37 years old, in his last fight against David Haye, he looked against Tony Bellew. I mean, he looked like a shot fighter, David Haye. You know what I mean? He didn't look like the David Haye of old because this version of David Haye's picked up too many injuries. He's 37, 38 years old. You know what I mean? He's seeing better days. And Tony Bellew, he's just laughing this approach off from David Haye. He's just trying to laugh it off Tony Bellew by trying to get into David Haye's head still. He's still trying to get David Haye to bite. And when David Haye gives him credit, Tony Bellew's not accepting the credit. He's not taking any credit for the first fight or anything like that, especially from David Haye. He's saying, you know what, you can keep your compliments towards me and stuff like that. And you know what I mean, it's a lot more calmer this time around. There's no theatrics, there's no punches at a press conference. Obviously I still think there's a lot of animosity towards each other because, like I said, I'm not too convinced that David Haye is genuine with this approach of being humble and giving Tony Bellew credit. I just think this is a way of him trying to keep focused for the rematch on May the 5th because he's going to need to be focused. He can't come into that fight the same way he was in the first fight because in that first fight he was just coming in, loading up, looking awful in that fight, you know what I mean, early on, but he was still doing enough to nick the rounds in my opinion because Tony Bellew was the one who was focusing on defense and David Haye was the one who was landing the shots and stuff like that. But even when he was landing the shots, he wasn't looking good doing it. David Haye missed a lot. Tony Bellew was making him miss a lot. And the reason Tony Bellew lost them first few rounds, in my opinion, was that he wasn't really punching, whereas David Haye was. But even the shots that landed, there wasn't too many from David Haye because he was missing a lot of shots in that first fight, you know what I mean? And obviously we all know the story, his Achilles went. And then the writing was pretty much on the wall. But now David Haye is saying that he's going to be fit, he's going to be ready for this fight. I don't think there's going to be a knockout in this fight. Like, I really don't think there's going to be a knockout in this fight. Like, I think this fight's going to points. Like, I don't think Tony Bellew is going to be able to knock David Haye out unless, obviously, David Haye gets injured again. And in my opinion, I don't think David Haye will be able to knock Tony Bellew out, especially this version of David Haye. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what David Haye looks like when he gets in the ring. Maybe that was just an off night because he had an injury to his Achilles and stuff like that. And, you know what I mean, he'll go in there and he'll do a job on Tony Bellew. But I don't see any of these fighters knocking each other out. I see this fight going to points. And I wouldn't be surprised if David Haye won it on points against Tony Bellew because, obviously, David Haye, a fitter version of him, I think he's more talented than Tony Bellew. He's obviously a more talented fighter. But if his body holds up for the 12 rounds, which a lot of people are doubting it can do, then I think David Haye could win it on points against Tony Bellew. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Bellew managed to win it on points. Like, I just don't see a knockout happening in this fight because I think Tony Bellew is smart enough in terms of his boxing IQ to be able to survive against somebody like David Haye. A David Haye who is a lot slower nowadays. A David Haye who Tony Bellew was studied for a long time and stuff like that. And David Haye, obviously, he's not as sharp as he used to be. His reflexes aren't as quick as they used to be. So I think Tony Bellew could be able to survive against David Haye and do the 12 rounds and vice versa. So I expect this fight to go 12 rounds in my opinion. So yeah, comment below in the comment section. I'm going to leave a link to this Gloves Are Off video, the full version. It's not on YouTube, it's on Daily Motion, but I'll leave the link below in the comment section or below my video, and you guys can check it out for yourselves. And then comment below in the video and tell me what you think of it. Do you think this is just mind games from David Haye, or is he actually genuine in what he's saying? Is Tony Bellew just trying to wind him up? Comment below in the comment section. It's JM at Speedboxing.